typically Harry would sometimes say this is the Tom Ficklin show in WNHH 103.5, but Sam was kind of pinch hitting and really glad to kind of be with you this morning. You heard Tabisha kind of coming in, and she's a local artist, but also local in this sense is really worldwide. She's from South Africa. My wife allowed me to kind of play her tune, so we're going to go in and out with some of Tabisha's songs this morning as well. But I have the pleasure of being with Lil Snyder, and just as I came in, Lil was kind of mentioning her background and her heritage, and some of you may or may not know that Lil's worked with the city of New Haven since the first John DeStefano administration. But just as we were talking, it occurred to me that she has a life prior to just being an employee of the city. And actually, when she mentioned that she was born in the Soviet Union at that point.
Yes.
Was born in the Soviet Union. And her last name is really not Snyder, and even Lil is not even her real name. So we're going to go down kind of memory lane a little bit in terms of her history. But it's important, I think, for the Tom Ficklin Show for people to know that regardless of how we're paid, and regardless of how the IRS perceives you and your tax liability, and even sometimes your obituary, not to be morbid, but really who is the person behind what they're doing. And Lil has had a purpose, passion, and I'll say even gift in terms of her public life, and I'm sure she was a dedicated person when she was small. I'm not sure what your parents would say, but we're going to kind of go to reminisce a little bit. So this is somewhat going to be the Lil Snyder show. And if your parents, I'm assuming, are maybe deceased. Or is
my mother's still alive.
Your mother's still alive.
Yeah.
And so your mother named you. Your first name was when you were born.
It's my name is Lilia Naja Kulinic.
Lilia, I'll say that again.
Lilia Naja Kulinic.
And you heard it from here, guys. You heard it from here. So that's the trivia test. And Lil, so take it away. Well, the official reason for this show is in terms of the city of New Haven and its interest in contractors and its interest in really the growth of New Haven and how small businesses can be involved from a contractor standpoint. And we're going to get to that, but I wanted kind of for people to know who Lil is first, because she's going to give you how to contact her, the website, and just so. But when you meet with her in terms of your vision and your purpose and your passion in terms of contracting opportunities and small business opportunities, it's good to know who the person is. She's just not a bureaucrat, just not a pencil pusher, just not someone that's running for a job or an office. So Lil, you were born in.
I was born in at that time what was called Eastern European Society, the Stuttgart, Germany, in a displaced citizens camp. We were
don't this for the show. We don't want to use euphemism. When you say displaced citizens, these are refugees.
Refugees, yes.
And you had to leave your home. Where did you?
Belarus.
So from Belarus.
Yes.
And there was bombs were dropping or something?
Bombs were dropping. You had to leave your homes because the Russians were coming and taking over, and the risk of life imprisonment was a major issue. And my mother said, everybody get in this little wagon and we're leaving.
Because if you weren't a communist or affiliate with the Communist Party, you were considered to be a threat or an outcast.
Exactly. Exactly.
And did you take a train? Did you guys walk?
We walked. Well, we walked. We walked all the way to Germany, and in Germany they had as I said, a refugee camp set up, and you had a tent, and you lived with people that you kind of knew, and that's where I was born.
And you're only I know you're only 16 years old plus more, but that was around 1985, 1989.
The 1940s.
1940s.
Yeah.
So when you say you walked, your brothers and your sisters?
Just my mother and me.
Your mother and you?
Yes. Yeah.
And your father?
He was in the service, and we found him when we got to the displaced camp.
And so he was in the army of?
Germany.
So he worked for
what the practice was that the whichever authority was in charge would come in and they take all the young men
and draft. That's right.
Yes.
And it's important for people to know that, because we get kind of hung up so much on politics and government and ideology, but oftentimes the people are just kind of swept up in whoever has the power at that point.
Exactly.
And with no choice whatsoever.
No choice, because the choice is that either you're executed or you go into their service.
See?
Yeah.
And that's what we call encryption. It's not encryption, but whatever the word is. So you're in Germany for how long?
We were in Germany for 4 years, and and what we were waiting for was for permission to come to a new country.
Hmm.
My grandparents got permission to go to Australia. My parents' friends and several relatives went to South America to Brazil. My father wanted to come to the United States.
And what was his first name?
Leon.
So, okay, so he had a normal.
He had
not, I say not to say that your original name was not normal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But so he wanted to wait for us to get permission to come to the United States. And the way we came to the United States was as indentured servants. And an indentured servant means that someone from the United States bought us. They paid for our tickets to come over, and we had to work for them until we paid off the tickets.
And did you use the term indentured servant at that point?
Yes. Yes.
See, and that's such. I love history, and that's just such a new wrinkle. And Lil, just again, this is the Tom Ficklin show. And we're talking to Lil Snyder, and your job title is
Small contractor program developer for the small contract development program.
And we're going to try to get to that. But if people want to find out more information about the small contractors development program,
we can go to the city's website, or actually my website at www.cityofnewhaven.com. Small contractor development SCD.
And it's really important. And we're going to continue with Lil's story. But we see the development in New Haven, and Lil's been there for a number of since the early DeStefano administration, and I've seen her at a variety of events. And you guys got an award at Jennifer Little Greer's Minority
Yes.
Contractors event.
Yes.
But we want people to know who the person is. I mean, we have all these debates going on nationally. We have an election coming up here in New Haven, election in Bridgeport for that matter for mayor, as well as in Hartford. But it's really key to kind of know who the people are. And Lil is so kind to because we didn't rehearse this, so I'm just so pleased. And so the indentured servant, do you know how that connection was made? Because we hear about even slavery or neo-slavery or parts of oppression going on even today in terms of sex trafficking, et cetera. But was there wasn't a Facebook page like
No. This was an organization. This was a chicken farmer in Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And what they would do is they would look for cheap labor. And so there was an entity that would say, we're going to go to immigrants who are looking to come to the United States. They had a broker, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they would look for people who, and we didn't know what indentured servant was. We
Yes.
didn't have a clue. We didn't even speak English. But this was a way to come to the United States. And my father said, we're going to take the chance. And so through the broker,
Mm-hmm.
we got the papers were processed through the chicken farmer. He paid for our transportation. And one day we showed up at a chicken farm in Indiana to work.
No, wait a minute, Lo. I know you're a good swimmer, and I know you're a good surfer. But so you didn't swim across. You took a boat.
We took a boat.
Took a boat.
We took a boat.
And do you remember where you left from?
Actually, no, I don't
Okay,
remember where.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you remember? Can you see in your mind kind of sleeping crossing the Atlantic Ocean?
Just vaguely.
Just vaguely.
Just vaguely.
So
It's been a long time.
How old were you roughly around that time?
6.
So 6 years old.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
This is quite a story.
Oh, it's
quite
an
a story.
amazing story. Because especially with all the things that are going on today.
Yes.
With immigrants and all the issues that you see. We lived it. We didn't speak the language. We got on a boat. We came across. A stranger picked us up at the port in New York City, and then for over, I don't know, it seemed like an eternity.
That's right. Yeah, to the Midwest. Yeah.
Yes, to Indiana, and all of a sudden, you're kind of wondering, well, because we were we lived in a tent, but all of a sudden, you come to this chicken farm, and the smell was horrendous,
Yes.
and where we were staying or where we were living was over the chicken coop. So it was the chickens were housed down on the ground
Mm-hmm.
level, and there were some stairs, and we climbed up the stairs, and that's where we were living.
Roughly how many other families were there?
This was there was probably, I would think, maybe 25, 30 families.
So he'd say 25, 30 families.
Yeah.
Too much.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And my father was an educated man, not a farmer, and so he goes, I don't understand this. I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm not going to stay here forever.
Uh huh.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness, because I don't know what happened to the other families. But
Do you remember your early? Because at that point you still didn't speak English yourself.
no,
So was there an elementary school nearby, or you just learned how to?
well, no, we worked.
Oh, you worked.
You
So
worked.
how did you
Yeah.
learn the language? How did,
What happened was, and and I will never forget, what my father did. He had some friends in New York City who were working for a construction contractor.
mm,
It's amazing
cut it
how,
out. Isn't that
yeah,
something?
yeah. And so he wrote to this friend and he said, we're here. All three of us are working for this farmer. It looks like we're never going to be able to pay off the debt because he's charging us for food, he's charging us for lodging, and all this keeps adding into our debt.
Yes.
I don't know how I'm going to be able to pay this off. So this dear friend of his said, "I have a job for you. I will give you enough money for a bus fare just for you." And that's what my father did. He got on the bus, he paid off he came to New York City and worked and paid off um, the debt that was left. It actually took him almost 9 months before we
Mm,
saw him again.
mm.
And he came back with enough money to pay off me and my mother. And we got on a bus and we came to New York City.
How old roughly were you at that point?
At that point, I was almost 8.
So by 8 years old, you'd been in Europe, two countries or more in Europe, East Coast, crossed Atlantic, Midwest,
Yeah.
in Indiana, and then back in the in, so from like an agrarian I've never been to an Indiana, but it's kind of flat
It was,
farmland,
yeah, yeah.
and then to the high rises.
Yeah,
But by
well,
8,
back in those days, and it's amazing because I always relate this to New Haven, and when I hear the contractors coming in, small contractors, um, what he was able to get for us was a cold water flat.
mm,
It was a one room, an apartment.
yes,
The toilet was in the hall that was shared by 5 other families on the floor.
Lower East Side.
Lower
You
East
mentioned.
Side. We didn't have hot water, and the bathtub was also the counter. And so you had a little piece of formica that covered the bathtub, and that was your counter during the day.
Mm,
And if you wanted to take a bath, you boiled some hot water on the stove.
that's why they call it
Yes,
cold water
yes,
flat.
yeah. And that was our first real home, our first apartment on the Lower East Side, and
Boy,
we still didn't speak English.
boy. And again, you're listening to Lil Snyder, but repeat your birth name again.
Oh, Lila Naja Kulinic.
I love that. Do you still speak a little bit of?
Oh, absolutely. My father didn't want us to lose our heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So at home, we always spoke, our own language, which was Belarus. And when I went to school, well, when I went to, I started school with first grade, and I didn't speak a word of English. And our first grade class was like the United Nations.
Mm.
We had children from all over the world in that
Mm-hmm.
classroom. 3/4 of them didn't speak English. So it's quite an experience.
So you're listening to Tom Ficklin Show, and you're listening to Lil Snyder, but you're also listening to.
Lila Nadia Kulinic.
And if you want to know what our method or madness or our purpose is, again, Lil, your current title is.
Small Contractor Development Program Manager.
And the elevator speech for people want to kind of know what you have to offer and what you have to share.
The fact that I've lived through what a lot of the small contractors are going through today. That I'm not strictly just a paper pusher who's pushing applications for participation in the program. I understand what a small business that's just starting up has to go through, because that's exactly what my father went through, with the detriment of being in a country that he's never been in before, not understanding what the language is, not understanding the laws and the regulations. And I lived that with him because he would take me with him everywhere. I kind of learned, he thought that I understood the language better than he did. So every place that he went, I went from day one. Once he started becoming, he was a worker for his friend in a demolition contractor. And then as he became a foreman, then he started his own business, and he would take me with him everywhere. We lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, East 8th Street between Avenue A and B.
Mm.
On the corner was St. Bridget's Catholic Church. In the middle of the block was um, the Jewish grocery store.
Mm.
And at the end of the block was the Russian bar.
Mm.
Across the street was the Chinese laundry. The middle of the block, we had two apartment buildings, which, and it's interesting, what I'm going to say was it was a black, the whole building was being lived by black
Mm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the corner was the Jewish synagogue.
Mm.
That was the street
Mm.
that I lived on.
Mm. Mm.
And so, I grew up in this multifaceted environment.
Yes.
And we all walked to school together because PS 64 was 2 blocks down the road.
Mm.
And we all walked to school together and we all had the same issues. But going back to my father, he said, I want to make sure that no one's trying to take advantage of me.
Mm.
I want to make sure that I understand what they're asking me. So I would sit in the corner.
Yes.
If he had a business meeting at the Russian bar, I sat in the corner listening to what was going on.
Not drinking, though.
Not drinking.
Not yet. No vodka. No vodka.
And if he was meeting with the union rep, I was there listening to what the union rep was doing. It was truly, truly an amazing experience because as soon as I could drive, which back then was at 15, I drove the dump truck to the 7 different locations picking up the workers.
Stop it.
They all had a site, and that was before school. That was at 5:30 in the morning.
Cut it out.
Yep. I drove to the different locations. They jumped in the back of the dump truck. I brought them to work, and then after work at 3:00, I picked them all up at the job site and drove them back to the drop-off sites.
So when some of the people come to your office and they're complaining about the difficulties of getting involved with the business and in the construction business, you kind of smile to yourself because you're a compassionate person.
Yes. Yes.
But again, if someone wants to find out what's going on with the status of the Q House or status of other housing initiatives that are taking place, construction initiatives that are taking place here in New Haven, who should they reach out to?
They start out with me.
There you go.
They start out with me.
They start out with the best.
Well, you know what it is we in New Haven offer so much. If you really want to work, it's hard. It's not easy. The construction industry is a difficult occupation. You're working in the heat, you're working in the cold, you're working in the rain. The hours are awful hours, but you can make a living. But we in New Haven, it is amazing what we can offer. We try to be able to coordinate transportation. We tell you where the jobs are. We tell you who to contact. We tell you what forms are necessary, what licenses are necessary, all of which growing up, I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. For the Q House, roughly, we might have a grand opening and a ribbon cutting 2020, 2021, do you think?
Well, I'm thinking probably 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, because the bids came in for the general contractor. They're going through the pre-award process right now. And so if we're fortunate enough to award a contract at the end of the summer, it's at least a year and a half.
Yeah. So the general contractor still has to be selected.
Yes.
And if someone is still interested in kind of becoming, I guess the term is a subcontractor, is that still an opportunity for them to pursue?
Absolutely. None of those have been determined yet. So once we have a contract executed with the general contractor, and you can start with me because for the most part, I know every single job that's going on in the city.
I won't say where the bodies are buried, but that's the wrong thing. That's the wrong thing. And for people to contact you, the best way for them to go about that?
Well, the best way is to send me an email because I'm always at the different job sites. I'm always looking to see what's going on, who's there, who's doing what, who's not doing what they're supposed to. So, and my email is lsnyder, SNYDER, at newhavenct.gov.
And again, you're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Lil Snyder is in front of us, but also, who else is in front of us?
Oh, Lila Nadja Kulinic.
I can't say that. And when you were at the Lower East Side and you heard all these, does language come easy to you? I mean,
Yes. Yes, especially from when you were little.
Uh huh.
You figure out the similarities, you know the differences, and you heard it all. I
Yes.
mean, we would walk to school together. You had the Hasidic kids.
That's right.
Uh,
That's right. The
yeah,
Hasidic. Yeah.
you had the Hasidic kids. You had the Asian kids. You had the Jamaican kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was an amazing experience.
Are there any movies or TV shows that you've seen that really accurately replicate kind of that? Because this is you're talking, I like I'm kind of a media maven, but I can't think of. I mean, I've seen some shows that try to replicate, but I'm getting a better vision from you than even
It was if probably The Godfather.
probably The Godfather.
If
Okay.
you look at when they would go back to when he just came to the country, and you'd see the vendors on the streets, and that's the way life was on the Lower East Side.
Mm-hmm.
You sat on the stairs on the stoop in front of the building. That was your playground,
Hmm.
and the kids were playing in the street, and you had people sitting playing cards and little tables, and you had the small card vendors. And I'm not talking about the 30s and 40s. I'm talking
Hmm.
about the late 50s
Hmm.
and the 60s.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and it was an amazing melting pot, because it really was.
The attraction for and you had a life prior to joining the first John DeStefano administration. You had a life before that.
Yes, I did.
So tell us a little bit
Yes,
about
I
that.
did. Well, it was very interesting because my husband had his own carpentry business,
Mm-hmm.
so I helped him with the business, and I was an owner's rep.
Hmm.
Because I realized that from when I was little, I understood the construction industry. So that was
And how did you and your husband's first name again?
Donald.
How did you and Donald meet?
In college. In college, he was. Uh, we were both freshmen, and that's how far back we go.
Mm-hmm.
We just celebrated our 45th wedding
Amen. Amen to
anniversary.
that.
Yes,
45th.
45th wedding
Where'd you
anniversary.
guys go to school?
Central Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it was great, and Central, as it turns out, you kind of can see the pattern. Uh, what I graduated with was an American history school teacher,
Mm-hmm.
with a concentration in construction.
Cut it out.
Yeah. And Central has since
And
developed.
all that world knowledge you had when you were from it.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to teach. I wanted to teach social studies and American history.
Mm-hmm.
And the year that I graduated from college, they had more teachers. The New York Times came out with a whole story on how we have more teachers than we have jobs. This
Mm.
amazing overflow of
Mm.
teachers.
Mm.
And I taught for 2 years, and then realized that I wasn't making any money, and I was teaching, I was coaching volleyball,
Oh.
yeah, and I said, okay, you know what? I got to find something that's going to pay me more than $3,000
Mm-hmm.
a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we got married, I came to Connecticut and started my construction career. And
Well, started it prior to. I mean, working with your
with
husband.
my husband, yes, yeah.
And so how did the city of New Haven kind of attract you and get you to leave your husband's business?
Well, you'd find it's hard to believe. It was the commercial. I did it the old fashioned way.
Uh-huh.
I saw the ad in the New Haven Register.
Okay.
Yeah. I saw the ad in the New Haven Register. I looked up what the requirements were for what they wanted. I went and read the ordinance, New Haven's chapter 12 and a half. I looked at what their business practices were, and I took a test.
Boy, and Lil, again, I kind of not. I don't think I twisted your arm, but before we went on air, I mentioned that we are going to have you back to talk more about your day to day business. But just when you mentioned 12 and a half, some people may not know. Um, I guess when I came to New Haven in 1971, and even there were some construction initiatives taking place then, and guy by the name of Dick Dowdy comes to mind, and I guess the Muros come to mind, and George Clark and others have come to mind. So uh, again, I came in '71, but and I'm from Pittsburgh, and I can remember when I grew up in the '60s and '70s in Pittsburgh, issues between the city and the community in terms of construction. You've seen a lot, I guess not only here in New Haven, but also worldwide and also domestically and in your personal experience. When we say 12 and a half, is that still in existence now?
Yes, it is.
So
Yes, it is.
share it with people. People get kind of concerned or it's still somewhat controversial about what does a set aside mean or what does equity mean or what is fair, what is just basically fairness means. But you've seen a lot of unfairness in life.
Yes, yes, and I have to say, I have always been so impressed with New Haven because way back when, New Haven was concerned about offering opportunities on the workforce side to make sure that there was an equal distribution uh, of workers who show what New Haven looks like,
Hmm.
as well as a program that offered opportunities for small businesses.
Mm,
And it is amazing. Actually, when you look at, we offer the most in the whole state of
mm,
Connecticut.
mm,
And it is uh, wonderful that going back 30, 40 years, the forefathers in New Haven all saw the need for providing assistance, for offering opportunities, and for making sure that the work that was being offered by the city of New Haven, the money that was being spent by the city of New Haven, the residents, the local population were able to take part in that.
mm, mm.
And it is just so, any place that I go and I talk about what New Haven offers, we always offer so much more.
And so 12 and a half, and I appreciate you providing that context. What does 12 and a half mean?
12 and a half is the workforce component of the city's ordinances, which say that if you're going to have any type of assistance from the city of New Haven, if you're going to get a loan, if you're going to get some tax assistance, if you're going to get you're going to purchase a piece of property at a reduced price, you have to then, when you're uh, building that building,
Mm-hmm.
offer opportunities to the workforce.
Yes.
You have to go and look into the community. You have to look into the neighborhoods to offer them the opportunity to
Yeah.
work.
So is it fair to say that the general contractor that will be selected for the Q House is also subject to the 12 and a half provision?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That is a major component, that both 12 and a half and 12 and a quarter. 12 and a half is the workforce, 12 and a quarter is the small businesses, that they have to first make sure that those opportunities are offered through the program.
Right. So if someone's listening and they want to participate and get to know you and also participate in and take advantage of the opportunities, how should they go about kind of reaching out?
We're on the sixth floor of City Hall. We're there all day long, 9 to 5, every single day. And there is absolutely no reason for anyone not to show up and ask about how to register for the program, what work is available. We even put on our website, on the Small Contractor Development website, a list of contact information, the requirements that they need. Everything is there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to look at the website, then just come up to the office and talk to me or Amoy.
Is there a number they can call to kind of leave a message or anything?
Yes, yes, absolutely. There's actually two numbers,
Two
but
numbers?
you can start out with the main number, which is 203-946-8577, or they can call me directly, which is 203-946-6550.
And it's likely that either they'll speak to you or a
Oh,
Moy
absolutely.
or Moy.
It drives me crazy
so-
when all you do is get the
so-
answering machine.
So a shout out to Amoy Kong.
Yes.
So a shout
Yeah.
out to Amoy.
Yes.
And that's if I'm correct, that's another entrepreneur.
Yes. Oh, it's amazing.
Amoy's an entrepreneur.
Yes, it is.
Is this the Amoy Kong that knows Phil Brown we're talking
It is.
about?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Well, shout out to Amoy's. All I can say is just Google Amoy's and you can find some good food. That's tremendous.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, what kind of better person to also be helping me and understanding what a small business has to go through? Amoy, for the last several years, has gone through setting up her own business and fulfilling a passion that she has, and that's what small contractors, small businesses all have to have. And she's a great one to talk to about the issues that you're having in understanding all, because it's not easy. Having your own business is not easy, and especially with my husband having his own business, we and my father, we live through it. It's 24 hours a day. There's no, at 5 o'clock you don't walk out.
Yes.
And you don't go on vacation because you're always thinking about the business. And there's so many different avenues, and that's one of the things that I like to talk about, especially to the contractors. You got to find the work, then you got to do the work, and then you got to get paid, and then you got to look for the next job.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely not easy. But at the end, if you really work hard and persevere, excuse me, and persevere, there is a reward, but it is not an easy reward, and it takes a long
Mm.
time.
Mm.
Yeah.
Lil, this is great. We have about another 10 minutes. I guess really, again, we kind of just conspired to go down this road shortly before coming on air. And I'm comfortable in asking this question to you because of your commitment and your passion. And I've seen you over the few decades
Yes.
operating with through my Empire New Haven connection and inner city newspaper connection, and also now my Ficklin media business. But the question I want to get to is the criticism. What criticism, constructive criticism, have you heard over the years about your initiative that you're always striving to diminish?
People don't understand that we don't give jobs, that all we can do, both legally and mandated by ordinance, is offer the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will come in and they think that, oh, okay, I'm going to sign up and tomorrow I'm going to get a job. That's not the case. This is a public work environment. Everything is publicly bid. Everything is mandated to go to the lowest responsible bidder. And the person who makes that determination at the end is the project owner.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's for the Board of Ed and they've asked for, let's say, on-call painting, and it's bid through purchasing. Purchasing will get all the bids that everybody has submitted. They turn it over to the owner of the project, and then that project owner reviews the qualifications of of all those who bid. So
Mm-hmm.
there is no, I'm going to get a job. I'm not going to come to the city of New Haven. I'm not going to fill out an application and tomorrow get a job. What you're going to do is you're going to fill out an application. We have all your information, everything that you need to get to bid. And then we either call you, email you, send you a notice about what the work is coming out. You don't have to look for it for New Haven. We send it right to your email. And we tell you on the 15th of July, there's going to be a bid on a project that you might be interested in. You have to bid.
Yes.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong a little bit. Organizations such as the Greater New Haven Business Profession, you have other organizations that assist you, I think, with cultivating the audience with workshops, etc.
Yes. Yeah. We have the New Haven Contractors Alliance, which is a great organization that was also started over 20 years ago. We have the Marsha Mason's jobs agency that works with us. We work with a whole bunch of.
Is Greater New Haven Business Professional Association still involved?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so we're here, and what we say is, if there is someone that who is interested in working in the construction industry, send them to us.
And share with us some of the skill sets. We talk about painters and
it is amazing.
Carpenters,
painters, carpenters, sheetrockers, landscaping, telecommunications, signage, drain cleaning, sidewalks. I mean, they're electricians, plumbers. It is all of anything that is related to putting together a bill. There's 18 trades.
18 trades.
18
as well
trades.
As landscaping, I'd imagine.
Landscaping, as I said, the sidewalks, the curbs, the masonry work, the brickwork, the sheetrock work, the taping.
Any environmental work like that?
Asbestos abatement, mold remediation. Right now, PCBs is a big issue.
Sure.
So all of those are all part of the construction industry.
And it seems to me, and I appreciate your kind of delineating those various aspects of the industry, if you will, because it seems to me that's even evolving. When you mention PCs, they're discovering new construction is more than just painting something. It's more than a brick.
Absolutely. And one of the good parts about our program, and which what we realized a long time ago, is that we have to keep up with the times. Maybe 15 years ago, it was asbestos abatement. now asbestos abatement is almost coming to an end because we've cleaned up a whole. We still find some, but the big thing that we're now finding is PCBs. We're finding lead, and so what we will do is when we realize that these are the current issues,
Yes.
we will hold training workshops at no cost because anything that we do, there's no cost associated
Tremendous.
with us, which is all part of why not take the time to figure out what we do because everything that we do, there's no cost to it. We will
Tremendous.
offer. It's wonderful.
If someone and I really appreciate your giving me the liberty of going back and forth in terms of subjects. If someone your native language, you mentioned Belarus.
Yes.
That's really the name of your.
Yes. Yes.
It's not like Romanian or
no,
it's not,
no. There's a whole country.
There's a whole country.
There's a whole country.
Is it still around?
It's still around.
Like
yes.
It's Croatia,
right?
But before Belarus, it was because you guys divided. It was Yugoslav part of Yugoslavia.
No. We're right in between Poland and Russia. There's a country there called Belarus.
When did it start?
Oh, it goes back.
You guys go back. I've never heard of it.
No.
So say something Belarus to me. We may have listeners from that understand Belarus. I think Sam understands Belarus.
He does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yak Shamash.
How about you?
Oh yeah. Hear it all the time. Yeah.
Hear it all the time.
Are there any Belarus musicians or famous people other than you, of course?
Oh, gee, not that I can think of.
Well, we'll think of something.
Because if we go back, we go back for quite a while,
yes.
and then the Soviets took over.
That's right.
Right,
yeah.
and so all those countries were all called the USSR.
Yes.
It was the Soviet Union, and Belarus means White Russia.
Well, okay, I won't tell anybody.
Well,
just between us and our 4,000 listeners.
Right. And it was White Russia. Minsk is the capital.
Minsk, yes.
You've heard of Minsk.
I heard of Minsk. Yes.
Minsk is the capital. And then once the Soviet Union collapsed, it came back its own entity and has its own government, and it's sort of a diversion. Because I speak Russian, I speak Belarus, I speak Polish, I speak Ukrainian. My German has faltered over the years, but and English. And at one time, it was French and Yiddish, and it was all because of where I came from.
Tremendous. You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show, and Lil Snyder's with us. And your current title is what again, Lil?
Small program manager for the Small Contractor Development Program.
And if people like additional information,
contact me at City Hall. I'm on the 6th floor of City Hall. You can walk in. We're still one of the agencies where you can walk in.
That's tremendous.
Yes.
On the 6th floor.
On the 6th floor of City Hall. And City Hall, of course, is 165 Church Street. And you could also look at our website, which is the www.cityofnewhaven.com.
Tremendous. And you hear so much, Lil, as we kind of conclude about relational situations and relationships and synergy and networking and just communion with people. But it's just I'm so glad that you thought of how just sharing yourself and your transparency. As we kind of conclude, I want to ask you kind of a philosophical question about life and success and people, because you've seen with the indentured servant, with being a refugee, with your mother still being alive, and working with your father and growing up in the Lower East Side and going to even New Britain, Central Connecticut. New Britain was considered one of the immigration's kind of major cities. And you've seen so much. And so when people come in, if you had to kind of just pour one phrase or sentence or affirmation in their brain to kind of keep them going, because it seems to me that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me that from time to time do people call you an optimist?
Yes.
Yes. So it seems to be from time to time that you've chosen, but you could have taken a different road.
Absolutely.
Is my point. It seems to me that clearly you could have taken a different road and have been bitter and mean and just vile thoughts and just resenting people. And
you see that so much today. Yeah, you see that so much today with everything that's going on with immigration, low-income families. We lived it. We came to this country not speaking English. Somebody had told my parents that America didn't have bathtubs. So what do they bring with us? A small porcelain bathtub. information is so important. Real information is so important because we came here with this bathtub and we could have brought something of value that maybe we could have sold and had some money. But no, we're carting around this ridiculous small porcelain bathtub because my mother heard that there was a lot of dirt and people didn't have a way of being clean. And she was this fanatic for cleanliness. So she said, okay, I want my daughter to be healthy and clean. So we're bringing this bathtub with us. Information, good information and then taking that information and following it is so important because that's the American dream. It's to be able to support your family, get your children educated, and have a good life. And that's what we talk about.
So just in closing, and Sam, we're going to kind of close with the pieces that I think it's song number 7. Lil, it's so good to kind of just have you share it and really help us with our belief system. Our belief and our passion and our commitment system. Any last words you'd like to?
All it takes is a little hard work and some good information, and that's what we try to help everybody in understanding. We can offer you that information that's accurate, and we can help if you just come and see us.
Thank you, everybody. And I would throw in everything you said a little bit, also good people.
Yes.
And so you're kind of the epitome of that. So I thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it was a pleasure being here. Thank you, Tom.
And you're coming back. You're coming back. Coming back.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. See you next Monday.